wake of the holiday break, content additions didn't necessarily happen here in Modern Warfare outside of the small update that we got on Tuesday, as plenty of Infinity Warders still out of the office with their families, or as of the time of recording this, likely embarking back home to kickstart their work again post-holiday season. While that's natural to expect as we all round back into our normal everyday routines, one thing that was a pleasant surprise was that studio art director Joel Emsley popped in on Reddit and answered a ton of questions and was simply communicating with the community a little bit. With the radio silence in regards to some aspects of the game as of late, it was refreshing to see a bit of insight into the world of Modern Warfare's daily developmental processes and the like, and also it granted us some peeks at updates and additions likely coming very soon, two of which are incredible additions if you ask me. So today I want to break down those additions, such as more custom classes on their way and the potential new customization option for your weapons and blueprints, as well as a few other things like the possibility of returning camos in-game. That said, if you have anything you'd like to chime in on, let me know. Would you like to see more custom classes in-game? And if you could bring back one camo from all Infinity Ward titles, what would you like to see return on Modern Warfare? Let me know below, and also if you are new to the channel, maybe considering that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things Modern Warfare on a daily basis. But anyways, let's talk about these upcoming additions. The first one being that of additional custom class slots. Now this has been a hot topic of discussion since the very beginning of the game, since we only saw 5 classes at that time and still do up until now. Normally that's kind of standard, but you'd also see an increase to that amount of custom class slots with each new prestige that you entered, except Modern Warfare has that one glaring problem that there are no prestiges. So we've sat here with 5 creative class slots for 2 months now, and the topic of when will we get more has been asked for a while, and devs are aware of that. They've actually been aware for quite some time. This is one of the things that we talked about with them a little bit out at the studio during our Season 1 capture session the week before Season 1 launched, and like we'll discuss with Joel's public remarks, it's a little bit, well, actually a lot more bit in depth than just, hey, let's copy and paste this and give, say, 10 class slots to the player instead of the 5 right now. But anyways, from a Reddit thread by user Pavilion Party titled, "Dear developers at Infinity Ward, please, I am begging you to add more custom class slots," the thread went through and detailed basically all of what you could imagine. The things like 5 classes isn't enough, Modern Warfare has 2 varied of modes to allow for just 5 classes, previous games have offered far more, and with organic ways of unlocking them at that, coming back to that prestige argument, and that players are tired of swapping loadouts just to fit the constraints of 5 classes. Now, that stuff is all standard and you've either heard that before or have had the complaints for yourself. Now, like we mentioned, Joel talked to Reddit a ton in the last few days, and among his replies to the community, this is one of the following. "You and everyone else that has commented on this are right. It's in mainline back in the studio and we've been tinkering with it. I'm not sure which update it's in, but I think it's next. Believe it or not, it can cause horrible bugs if not tested properly. I'm not certain about all of this, so don't get fired up on me if I'm wrong, and since I've commented here, I'll stick with the issue at the studio." Now that's actually pretty heavy of a comment. To break this down a little bit for those of you that may not be familiar with the start of that, the developer jargon, mainline pertains to being one of the top priorities of development, and that's evidenced by the fact that Joel follows up by saying that he thinks it's possibly even in the next update, which, if our theories and previous patterns are anything to go by, will be as early as the upcoming week, perhaps even next Tuesday once everyone is back at the office, and then it's just a few days also after the second half of Season 1's passed, so kickstarting what may be another content update for the game in its first season. Without getting too far ahead of ourselves, that's absolutely awesome to see that we may be getting more custom classes here shortly. But it's also something that we should be precautionary about as well, because not to get too far ahead of ourselves, he thinks it could be in the next update. That doesn't mean that it will be, and he even reiterates that by saying that he could be wrong. And oftentimes when it comes to these updates, things can be pushed back last second. It definitely could be a situation where he's correct in saying that it could be the next update, but maybe as of Monday evening that changes. So things like that do end up changing last second. The developing teams are playing 3 to 4 steps ahead of public knowledge, not just the 1 or 2, and any number of things could change that. So it's possible that it comes, but it's also possible that it doesn't. But the big key portion of the statement is that it's actively being worked on right now and is close to completion. Joel also mentioned that this has been a big issue that was delayed not only because of other things popping up, like other bugs that they needed to fix first, but also the fact that ramifications for adding more genuinely could be game-breaking. That also echoes what Joe Seacott told me out in Los Angeles as well when I discussed this topic with them and the team a little bit further, to which logically it makes sense, but I had honestly no real idea that it was the case. When you consider that each custom class slot must account for every single combination of weapon, primary and secondary, lethal, tactical, perk 1 through 3, attachment, and even down to things like customization of camos, That's a ton of data for the game to log and process real time. But naturally, that's been tackled in the past since we've had more classes beforehand, but what hasn't been tackled is the sheer amount of that depth. Modern Warfare's introduction of the Gunsmith added astronomically more permutations that the application must process at the same speed, but with a handful more of zeros at the end of the number of possibilities. So it's a taller task, which I can't even begin to comprehend, but it's a hurdle they faced. But on that same token, I'm glad they're seemingly being close to passing it all. As for how they're released, well, I'm not entirely sure. I see them possibly going the two standard routes, obviously, either free or paid, with naturally the paid variation being that you just immediately gain them forever for X amount of COD points, which isn't something entirely crazy. We've actually seen that quite a few times within the Call of Duty history so far, but if they decide to implement them for free, I could see them either being maybe, say, granted for nothing and everyone automatically has maybe 10 classes, or perhaps it mirrors a prestige system where you get one class every 10 officer rank levels or something like that, and then maybe it resets with each season, which naturally would suck to lose them, but I also don't know how, if you try and mirror the previous systems, how you'd keep them running otherwise. Otherwise, that's kind of my thoughts here on it. The next cool thing, though, that I think was confirmed, and again, we slightly discussed here on the channel before, right before the Season 1 launch, was that of a Frankenstein blueprint system in a sense, where you'd be able to craft your own custom blueprints a little bit further than you already can, using attachment variants that you have from your armory of other weapons and making a custom blueprint with some other customization outside of just the standard challenge camos. On a thread by Reddit user Sober Dreams, showcasing his golden Odin with the anime skin, which I gotta say actually looks really good with gold on it, the conversation with Joel and the community continued. Joel ended up referencing a feature coming in the not announced future just yet of this Frankenstein build, saying, at some point in the future we're hoping to let you combine different blueprint attachments together to Frankenstein weapons and then apply different camos. It's really buggy though, so I don't have an answer as to when we'd be able to push it out for an update, but we're trying to work out the problem. Now that's pretty cool, right? Well, believe it or not, like we mentioned here on the channel before, this actually was something that we've already seen as well. If you remember back to the beta, if you took part in that on PC, or if you played with mouse and keyboard on PS4 or Xbox One, you could have the ability to take a look at weapon attachment variants, where you could customize how they looked, and actually, this was the first real glimpse at what was to come in terms of weapon blueprints. We just didn't know it at the time. In fact, we actually didn't know that supply drops would be removed from the game, so we thought this was the beginning of an even worse MTX system that would flood the loot pool with pure garbage like Black Ops 3 and a bunch of attachment variants, lessening the chance of any real worthwhile return, but thankfully that wasn't the case. But it's exactly how the system would work, did work, and looks to work again here in the future. The only downside though is that there doesn't seem to be an ETA on this when we may be able to see it coming, but we'll have to wait and see, but I do think this is actually really cool. Also building upon that a little further, continuing the discussion with another Reddit user, Shibarino, Joel ended up getting asked, can we get solid camos like a matte black or red? Also, being able to choose what part of the gun you want to camo would be pretty cool. For example, having the deagle painted matte black, having the barrel chrome, and camouflage the grip to the Africa camo. To which Joel actually replied saying that he totally agrees with this. Now that would be honestly insane. That would take that and go an extra step further, and I think would honestly be the epitome of pure weapon customization. It's so in-depth it'd be wild. Now, I have no clue if that would happen, realistically. I think it'd be really cool, but it also isn't something I would want to get too hung up on, because it's the extra detail on top of something that already has the question of if and when attached to it when discussing the Frankenstein blueprint feature. So it'd be really cool to see it go not only to the ability to customize your attachments, but also to go that step further and attach camos to specific portions of weapons. So we'll have to wait and see how that one turns out, but talking camos, talking customization a little bit further and rounding out this video, Joel actually ended up bringing the topic of discussion for returning camos to the forefront as well, in which on two different threads he ended up replying to not only just the fall camo, but also the prospect of diamond as well. These are a little bit lesser in terms of confirmed, but are interesting points of discussion that may lead to something here. But on a thread pertaining to platinum camo being bugged in some certain areas with the global lighting and blinding the player when they're ADS'd, Reddit user SniperDog5 ended up asking Joel if he could have a suggestion of switching platinum with diamond. He said if it would look just like diamond from Infinite Warfare, it'd be phenomenal. To which Joel ended up saying, that's true, but I'd prefer to have both. Continuing on then to say, find a solve or solution in developer jargon again for the blowout in spots where it's appearing, but just coming back to the topic at hand. So the possibility of having both, that'd be interesting. And then on a thread showcasing the Heat Cycle MP5 with gold on it at 8K resolution, which by the way, it looks beautiful. It is insanely nice and insanely clear at that res, naturally, but Joel was asked if there was any chance of return of fall camo, to which he said, believe it or not, I made that camo, would be cool to bring it back. Now, naturally, these are, of course, things that may not happen, but especially with the winky face on the fall camo question, that one makes me think maybe we will see it. One thing, though, that I would absolutely love to see, and I thought about this when thinking about camos, and this is totally my own speculation and idea thrown out here, I think it'd be really cool to see a career camo challenge series. I don't know about you guys, but I think that if you were to, say, get 5,000 headshots total across all of your weapons across your entire account, maybe you get diamond camo. If you get 10,000 headshots, maybe you get black sky. If you get, say, 500 bloodthirsty medals, perhaps you get spectrum camo. That'd be a cool way to implement some classic camos, which seemingly Modern Warfare really wants to do, is pull in classics from previous titles in terms of maps, in terms of weapons. So to see that kind of stuff, I think would be a cool little way for players to grind out more camos and content. But who knows, maybe that's just me being incredibly wishful thinking. So which, Infinity Ward, if anybody out there is watching this, man, I mean, feel free to go ahead. Go ahead and take that right up. I'll gladly offer that suggestion here. So that's it. That's where we're gonna wrap it up, though. What do you think here on all this? What do you think about the possibility of getting new custom classes as early as of next week? Potentially the Frankenstein build feature for Modern Warfare's blueprint system, and potentially new camos or returning camos coming within the game. Love to get your thoughts and feedback down there on all of that. And of course, if you did enjoy the video, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Modern Warfare, updates, news, information, tips, tricks. We got you covered on all that. So if you're interested in any of it, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss a single thing. If you guys also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically live on both those. If you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. For all that out of the way, thank you guys all so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.